so this constituted a violation of the school's speech code. These are just a few examples of how speech codes are used by college universities throughout the country. As I just explained, colleges actively pursue cases where they believe their speech codes have been violated, to the detriment of students and professors alike. These examples are derived from policies that are in direct violation of our Constitution. Now I will try to convince you that these policies are unconstitutional. Public universities are not autonomous from the government. Therefore, they are bound by the Constitution, including the Bill of Rights. The Constitution clearly states in the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech. If Congress cannot restrict speech, and public universities, which are funded by and run through the government, should also not be able to restrict our freedom of expression. The Supreme Court has put some regulations on total free speech, such as if speech is a direct incitement to violence, or it can be proven that it is slander. But when it comes to hate speech, the courts have made it very clear that it is protected under the Constitution. The courts have consistently stated in decisions striking down college campuses' speech codes that just because speech is offensive, hurtful, or causes emotional distress, it is not enough to prohibit the free expression of ideas. Some proponents of speech codes say they are protected by the fighting words restrictions the Supreme Court has put in place. But this is untrue, as fighting words must incite immediate breach of the peace. A case against the University of Michigan speech code exemplified this, when a federal court struck down the school's code saying, and I quote, "The Supreme Court has consistently held that statutes punishing speech or conduct solely on the grounds that it is unseemly or offensive are unconstitutional." Now that I have established the constitutional context of this issue, let me turn your attention to how speech codes are not only flawed in their attempt to help victims, but also have dangerous repercussions. Speech codes are intended to protect a group or individual from being targets of hate speech. By punishing those who engage in hate speech, this is supposed to deter further incidents. But these codes only marginalize victims and hide hateful thoughts under society's surface. Punishing perpetrators of speech codes of hate speech hurts the victims as long as it pushes them to the fringe of society. Treating victims of hate speech like they are special because of their differences only increases the hate towards them. Let's look back at the University of Michigan student who said homosexuality is a disease. Obviously this is untrue, but is it prejudice? According to Jonathan Rauch, a prominent American author and journalist, there should be no preemptive view if something is prejudice or not. Instead, with the advancement of knowledge, we need not know. What Rauch means here is that instead of punishing those who are prejudiced, we as a society should set prejudice against prejudice. Through the marketplace of free ideas, prejudice will be exposed and thus delegitimized. This view is consistent with the concept of free expression of will in a society. If there is truly free expression, then there is going to be racist and hateful expression, and the way to marginalize these hateful thoughts are through the moderate majority. Speech codes are also a liability for campuses. As I stated earlier, both students and faculty can be punished for violation of speech codes. This opens up the door to lawsuits against the university. And through precedents set by courts, which have consistently declared speech codes at colleges unconstitutional, these universities could be held liable for millions and millions of dollars. So far, I have talked about the unconstitutionality of speech codes and the negative effects they have on their victims. Now let's look at what can be done to restore our freedom of speech. Congress needs to pass legislation that explicitly states public universities who have speech codes which restrict hate speech are in direct violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution. To precipitate this change, we as constituents need to express our views to our representatives. Also, writing your university directly and telling them how important freedom of speech is to you is also necessary. In reality, the most likely way for speech codes to be thrown out is on an individual case-to-case basis through court decisions. This is what recent history has shown us. The fact of the matter is, getting rid of speech codes would be very easy to do. It could be done with little to no money and very quickly. And for those of you who worry about the absence of just anti-discrimination and harassment policy, the answer is simple. With the elimination of speech codes, in their place, carefully worded anti-discrimination and harassment policies would be implemented. In closing, let me reiterate this point. I have established the unconstitutionality of speech codes, and public universities are part of the government. Consequently, the Bill of Rights applies directly to them. So, college universities that have speech codes regulating hate speech are in direct violation of our Constitution. In addition, these codes only help push victims away from mainstream society. Along with this, people with prejudices, instead of being exposed for who they are kept quiet and pushed down deeper to grow more profound. The fundamental question is, are universities, their faculty, and students capable of abiding by the Bill of Rights? You as a citizen are bound by the Constitution. Then why is it you could be expelled from this university for simply expressing your views, however unpopular or offensive?